Welcome, bienvenidos. We are very excited to have everyone here today. I'm Yasmin Passar, and I'm an environmental planner and project manager with the City of Hoboken. And you're also joined here today by many other members of the project team who we will be introducing very shortly. Just a quick note on translation services for tonight. We have an American Sign Language and Spanish interpreters with us tonight. Megan is going to now drop instructions in the chat for how to use these. Interpretation is really taxing work, so we will pause periodically throughout the meeting for translators to switch. Also, if you do not see the closed captioning and would like to, please opt in by clicking the closed captioning on the screen. As everyone gets settled in, please take a moment to update your name in the Zoom by hovering over your name in the participant window, clicking More, and then Rename. Provide your name and desired city if you'd like to, so that we know where you're from. And if you're watching over live stream and want to engage directly in the meeting, please go to the website linked on the next screen for access. To ensure that we have limited background noise, we ask that everyone please remain on mute and when not speaking. If you have joined by dialing in, you can mute yourself by pressing *6. I'd like to also introduce Drew Curtis from the ICC to share with us the meeting community guidelines. So, Drew.
Hey, good evening or good afternoon. Thanks, Yasmin. Just a couple of guidelines to keep us on track and make sure we have a good and productive meeting today. We ask that you keep on mute unless you're speaking to ensure that everyone can be heard properly and we are respectful. If you have questions during the main presentations, just put them into the chat. And also to help our American Sign Language accessibility, please keep your microphone and your video off. But then when you get back into the breakouts, please consider to turn your camera on. We also ask that you use one mic. Make sure one person is speaking at a time. If you wish to speak, you can use the raised hand feature on Zoom or type the word stack into the chat. And let's acknowledge everyone's voices and time too. So if you're the type of person who you find yourself speaking frequently, consider opening up the floor to other members in your breakout session, and then vice versa. If you don't typically speak, don't be afraid, don't be shy, jump right in and let your voice heard. We want to hear from everybody too. Also, please speak from your own experience and use I statements. Too, and just be generally, let's respect each other too. And lastly, let's have fun. Back to you, Yasmin.
Thanks, Drew. Okay, now let's get started. The meeting today will happen in two parts. First, an upfront presentation that should take about 30 minutes, and then breakout rooms where we will deep dive into some of the solutions being explored for the plan. Throughout the upfront presentation, you should feel free to ask questions in the chat and try to respond either in the chat directly or at the end of the presentation before the breakouts. If we don't get to your question during the meeting, we will follow up with your response after. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to Facebook. We will post recordings to YouTube and our website in Spanish and English, and the live stream will be in English. Okay, so Resilient Northeast New Jersey is always evolving. Here's a quick overview of the project and what we're looking to do. Resilient Northeast New Jersey is a partnership between Jersey City, Newark, Hoboken, Bayonne, Hudson County, and the community-based organizations of Ironbound Community Corporation and HOPES, Community Action Partnership, to develop a regional resilience action plan. Representatives of these entities sit on the project steering committee. The project is funded and managed through the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and further guided by a Community Advisory Council that is comprised of a diverse group of residents from each municipality, many of which might be here even tonight. I'd like to also just welcome and introduce Nick Angrone, who is our Chief Resilience Officer at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, here tonight. So Nick, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thanks. Yes, hi, good afternoon. I'm Nick Angrone. I'm the Chief Resilience Officer for the state of New Jersey. I am also the manager of the Office of Climate Resilience Planning at DEP, who is the sponsor of the Resilient J program. Really happy to be with you all tonight to talk about the NENJ project. I want to thank everybody for coming. I know it's always difficult to, or it's challenging to at least get to these meetings, and I can't say enough about how critical it is that you're here and that we hear from you and get your input to direct the project. It's not often that I get to participate in these meetings and get to hear from you in our communities. And right, this is perhaps the most exciting time of the project to see kind of where all the work of the last few years is leading us, is ending up, and I'm really excited about where this is going. Right, how we plan and respond to the impacts of climate change, right? Whether that's sea level rise or kind of other coastal flooding or the extreme precipitation events, that we all experienced in September from the remnants of a tropical storm, right, in Ida. How we begin to address them now and how we plan for those events in the future is going to determine the success, sustainability, and resilience of our communities and the state. Resilient NJ program, and the Northeast New Jersey program, and the three other projects we have throughout the state, they are the preeminent flagship resilience planning program in the state of New Jersey. They are the preeminent flagship planning program for how we address climate impacts and how we do that with and for our communities, right? That engagement and that with you all, that feedback from you all is, I think, the most critical aspect of the program, and why I think NENJ in particular is going to be such a success. You have a really great technical team driving the project, working on the technical aspects. Your municipal representatives have been engaged throughout, and again, I've said this, I think, the last time I was able to attend here. It's really something that you should all be proud of, that your municipalities are involved to the level they are. It's not something that we see statewide. And so again, I'm gonna stop talking because I want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to kind of really provide your feedback and direct kind of really where the final action plan goes here. And I want to again thank everybody for coming, and we're looking forward to what we see tonight.
Thank you, Nick. Now I'd like to also introduce the steering committee. So perhaps we can start with Sue from Bayonne.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Sue Mack from the city of Bayonne, and I'm very happy to be here. Bayonne is called the Peninsular City, and that means we're surrounded by water on 3 sides. So we're triply interested in this subject, and it's been a great opportunity to work with this committee and with the community.
Okay, Drew.
Hello again, Drew Curtis, ICC.
Kevin, if you're on. Okay. Lindsay, if you're on from Jersey City. Okay.
We have Natalie still.
And Natalie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Augusto Filion. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for the City of Newark, and really grateful to have you all here.
And then also Meg Kavanaugh from NJDEP.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Meg Kavanaugh. I'm a planner in DEP's Bureau of Climate Resilience Planning, and excited to hear what you have to say.
I think that's everyone.
We also have Alan Miller on the line.
Thank you all. Alan Miller. I keep on turning on and off my camera. Alan Miller, New Jersey DEP. I'm the Community Collaborative Initiative representative to both Jersey City and Bayonne.
I think that's everyone. Yasmin.
Okay, wonderful. Next slide, please. The plan started out on these 3 different types of flooding that we see in the region: rainfall, coastal storm surge, and tidal. And we did a detailed flood impacts assessment that we'll be releasing on our website very soon. Based on your feedback, we're also looking at these, we're also looking at these other climate hazards like extreme heat and poor air quality, and climate hazard assessment report is also coming soon. The plan will address all 5 types of infrastructure that we will need to be resilient for a vibrant community. This includes social, economic, environmental, physical, and governance. In spring of last year, we kicked off the Resilient Northeast New Jersey process together. This initial process, which builds upon a lot of great work that is already happening, will culminate into a published roadmap for us to follow this summer. The plan aims to guide the region in the transformation to address the needs of the people in the 21st century amidst the changing risk contexts. Developing our roadmap requires developing a vision and shared priorities, understanding our risks and tools to address that risk, developing evaluation criteria, and assembling suites of actions that we could possibly take. So tonight, we're going to share with you the draft recommendations for the future and ask for your input. We will be publishing the plan based on your feedback and other engagement this summer. Tonight, we're going to share our draft recommendations based on our evaluation and stakeholder feedback, specific actions that we think might be needed in the short term and long term, and how to stay involved and continue to share our feedback. So I'm hoping that you'll leave here today with an internalized awareness that we have significant changes before us, but an understanding that these changes are not insupportable and that you will have the power to help address them. We are embarking on a journey together, greater resilience that will require all hands on deck. We need your help today and beyond to make sure that we are on the right track, to constantly check and ensure that we are not leaving anyone behind, and that we are here to address our highest needs first. We want to make sure that we understand your priorities and what role you want to play. This is a quick overview of the engagement that has been led by the Community Advisory Council and the Steering Committee to help to get us to where we are now. Most materials that we've made are translated into Spanish as well. We also have flyers, the survey, the art sheets translated into 10 languages that were prioritized for this diverse region. This is our 5th region-wide community meeting, and we also met with local officials and visited with community members across the region. We've held small group and interview meetings with local officials, utilities, infrastructure providers, and others, and have collected a lot of information through social media, surveys, and emails that were sent to us. As much as we're doing to try and get input from the people who live, work, and play in this region, we also know that we can always improve. We've already made shifts based on the feedback that we've received, and so please feel free to let us know your own ideas. On top of the meetings, there were also many ways for you to stay engaged with the project on your schedule. And so we'll drop our contact information in the chat as well. So why is this work so important? First, this place really matters. It is an extraordinarily diverse area with a rich history, and it's complex socially, economically, and so it's risk context. And there are 700,000 people who live here in this region. So this is the region as it existed about 140 years ago. A lot of it was marshland like a sponge. Hoboken used to be a marshy island inhabited seasonally by the Lenape people. The red outline that you see here is the shoreline as it is today, but the blue space used to be open water. Beginning in the 1900s, people added fill to displace wetlands or raise existing land for development. Today, all the purple on the screen is fill, correlating almost perfectly to former wetlands or open water. Fill material covers over 40% of the land area of the region and was historically not placed many feet above the high tides. Much of the fill was material from either dredging, construction, and garbage, and oftentimes containing contamination. During the same time, the region was growing as an industrial epicenter. Today, a significant portion of the region is dedicated to industry, energy, and freight, as shown in purple on the screen. $200 billion in goods entered through the US ports in Newark annually, and estimated 400,000 jobs associated with the port as of 2018. New Jersey Transit passenger rail lines, Amtrak lines, and the valuable PATH trains to New York City all run through this region. 450 trains with 200,000 passengers a day cross the Hudson River through our region. In 2019, 45 million passengers rode through the trains and 46 million passengers boarded flights at Newark Airport. 18 million vehicles crossed through the region into New York City. And so Northeastern New Jersey's influence on the movement of people, goods, and services regionally and nationally is staggering. All that activity has led us to a lot of impervious surface and concrete. Today, the region's cities range from 85 to 99% of impervious surface coverage, which you can see in the salmon coloring on the map. This region used to be a sponge. So where does all the water go? The answer is our streets, homes, businesses, and more. Many of you have seen this image before. This is a new model of what we call aerial flooding. So that's pronounced aerial, not aerial, like an aerial image, just for clarification. That's major rainfall over a long period. Here, it's 24 hours. The lighter blue shows possible flooding from 8.4 inches of rainfall, and the dark blue from 10% more than that, or about 9.2 inches, which gives us a bit of a range. These rainfall amounts are comparable to an Irene-like event if the rainfall fell consistently across the region. In actuality, it meant in some areas Irene was higher and other areas were lower. The likelihood of storms with this much rainfall is always evolving, and studies show that they are only becoming more and more likely to occur. It's the same story with storm surge flooding. A lot of areas flooded during Sandy, and we're expecting flooding from a similar storm in the future to get deeper and spread to a few more areas. As an example, here's Liberty State Park as it is flooded during Sandy in 2012. And we expect it to flood in the future from a coastal storm with sea level rise. I'm now going to take a pause for Megan to say a couple words about our translator.
Thank you. I'm just going to switch the interpreters.
¿Intérpretes?
Okay, we should be good. Thank you.
Sure. To better understand these impacts, we completed a flood impact assessment where we qualified physical damages to structures, human impacts like displacement, mental stress, anxiety, and injuries. We also looked at business impacts like relocation costs, location of employment, direct and economic output. And we looked at a loss of public services and other assets like ecological systems and community spaces. The flood impact assessment indicated a potential of $30 billion in losses under a future coastal event, 2.4 feet on top of the Sandy high water marks. As a frame of reference, the entire state of New Jersey suffered $30 billion from Hurricane Sandy in 2012. We're also looking at a $5 to $6 billion and 225,000 people exposed to flooding from significant rainfall, or a Hurricane Irene-like event. This may not come as a surprise, as the region has flooded several times from major rain events since we started the project last spring. All this translates to 2 of every 5 residents and 15,000 buildings at risk of flooding. 1,500 acres of park space and 70% of daily economic output across the region could be lost in just one single event. There are also other challenges the region faces. This image shows current urban heat islands, and this is expected to get worse without action. Related to the industry and transportation we talked about earlier, the entire region is in the 90th to 100 percentile of the state for cancer risk from air toxins today. Maps are similar for particulate matter and aerosols. This points to an urgent need to address air quality. So New Jersey does not currently participate in the CDC's national gathering for publicly available asthma prevalence data. So there are significant data gaps, and it makes it difficult to determine the full toll of present day impacts. Northeastern New Jersey has some of the highest concentration of wastewater discharge to the water bodies in the state, especially in Western Jersey City and parts of Newark. So unfortunately, data is lacking for Bayonne. However, the groundwater rises as sea level rises, and areas of high wastewater discharge with shallow groundwater will increase as the groundwater, with risk to groundwater contamination. People in Northeastern New Jersey also have high proximity to known sites of hazardous waste compared to the rest of the state and nation. This poses a concern generally, but also with increased flooding and groundwater that may mobilize contaminants. The relationship between site contamination and climate change, as well as rising groundwater, and are issues that we need to learn more about in order to take action to reduce this risk. And on top of all of this, most of the region is highly socially vulnerable. With a history of environmental and social inequity, the CDC Social Vulnerability Index mapped here is based on 15 social factors, including things like poverty, age, disability prevalence, minority status, English proficiency, and more. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Sue, who will continue this presentation.
Thank you, Yasmin. So we've laid out the problem, and now we're going to look at what actions will help us. There are a lot of challenges we face, but together we will be able to step up to those challenges. The action plan will meet the vision that was developed through collaboration with all of you. This slide has a snapshot of what we heard people are looking for across the 5 pillars of resilience or types of infrastructure. There's a QR code for the vision report that was published last fall. We heard this region wants more access to green space and trees, less trash in the streets. We heard folks want new high-quality green jobs, economic diversity, and to preserve the existing sense of community and cultural diversity. There's a need for more parks and public gathering spaces, improved access to transportation for pedestrians and bicyclists, as well as better relationships with government. This plan includes different types of solutions to help build resilience. They include physical and nature-based solutions, policies and governance, outreach, education, and capacity building, service and program development, and emergency response and preparedness actions. But the plan isn't happening in a vacuum. There's already a lot of work being done within the region. Individual entities are doing things like creating green infrastructure and community gardens, or developing and updating resilient building guidelines. There's a lot of work happening through partnerships. This program helped develop funding applications in each city to advance high priority projects, and there are many other planning initiatives that this program has been working to sew together like a needle and thread. Our program and other groups have been partnering to increase engagement of our youth. Finally, there's a lot of work that's already been happening through regional coordination through Resilient Northeast New Jersey. We've been working on a video series that should be published in the next couple of weeks, developing interact flood mappers and creating resilience-focused art projects in public spaces. We'll be able to talk to you about this in breakout number 2. So what else is needed? Let's talk about the draft action plan, which we'll dive into in the breakouts. Risk is significant from many hazards like flooding, heat, and others, and impacts lots of private property in densely populated built-up areas. Recommendation seeks to ease the technical, financial, or resource burden, or take the edge off wherever possible, and prioritize highest risk areas to help guide implementation. Recommendations lean mostly into the project strategy of keeping water out of removing it rather than something like retreat due to the density of the region and the nature of the risk. The recommendations also focus on connectivity. This includes walkability and access to the waterfront and green space, but also connectivity and access in other ways, green jobs, governance, information sharing, etc. By starting with our areas of most need and opportunity, by having multiple options in case of first line of defense fails, and by focusing on improvements that can connect our communities more effectively to themselves, we will position ourselves to build trust and momentum, adapt and build the capacity to thrive in the coming century. Thriving requires that we continue to adapt, to work away at the risk and regenerate our communities, as well as advance the living plan as more information becomes available. Most actions we'll talk about focus on one or more of the three themes highlighted here: ease, protect, or connect. Thriving and regeneration will come out of how we implement the actions and iterate in the process. So we will have two breakouts that you can choose from. First, we'll focus on change that will affect our built environment. We have some examples here on the screen that flow from these themes of ease, connect, and protect. We'll talk about solutions that help us address coastal flooding, drainage issues, and other climate hazards. The second breakout will involve discussions about solutions that will change how we work together, things like policy and governance, related solutions, programs and service development, engagement, outreach, and capacity building, as well as emergency preparedness activities. In each of these breakouts, we will talk a little bit more about who will be needed on deck in order to make these actions happen. It's going to require everyone to make this plan a reality. This will all seem like a lot. It is a lot. It will take time to implement. In fact, it won't end because our risk context is constantly changing. But we hope you will come away understanding that it is possible and that we have made the case that it is worth it. So what's coming next and where are we going to get with this action plan? Our flood impact assessment and climate hazards assessment are coming soon, and we will let you know once they're available. We will be publishing the first draft of the action plan this summer, and at the same time, we will be having some more public art projects, so be on the lookout for those. We'll be talking about those also in breakout number 2. The work doesn't end with the release of the action plan, which will be a living roadmap for us all to work from and shape as we get more data and situations evolve. The plan will outline the pathway for everyone to be involved in implementing the solutions, and we hope that you'll continue to participate with us. Quickly, before we move into breakouts, let us know in the chat, what is the most important action you would like to see come out of this plan? Please feel free to drop in any questions you'd like to talk about on what we've shared so far. Keep detailed questions about specific solutions for the breakouts. So as a reminder, these are your 2 breakout options. You can go into the solutions that will change our built environment to increase resilience. This is going to look at things like coastal barriers, green infrastructure, and drainage. The second breakout group is going to talk about solutions that will increase resilience through changing how we all work together. Here we will be talking about policy and governance solutions, engagement and capacity building, and more. Once we open these rooms, you should see a pop-up that invites you to join a room. If you have any issues, please message Resilient New Jersey, Megan, for support. Okay, let's open the rooms.
Seeing that there are no questions, I think we can get them opened. So as we said, something should pop up to help you get into a room, but if you have any questions, you can chat me and I'll be able to move you.
Just a quick reminder, the built environment breakout will stay in this room, and the folks that are interested in the how we work together breakout will move.
It's labeled as non-physical solutions just because there are word limits in Zoom. So, all right, I will open them now.